someone were to enter into it, specifically the Holy of Holies, the inner part of the temple that the Jews had, if someone were to enter into that, even symbolically, it was only going to be the chief priest of the Jews. He could never sit, and he had to repeat certain traditions. Jesus says that he has the right to not only enter into that throne, but then to sit on the throne, on the right, at the right hand of the power. Wow. According to Gomaszewski and Bowman in their new book, which came out last year, I suggest you read that. I suggest you read that if you want responses to all these, you have to start with something like that. They say that to enter into what Jesus just claimed is worse than saying he has the right to live in the Holy of Holies, which only one man can enter once. But Jesus said other things in this. So keep in mind, what I just used, Mark 14, verse 62, has 3 lines of evidence. Now those 3 lines of evidence, let me go back. Those 3 lines of evidence are so strong. The Son of Man statements, the apocalyptic Son of Man statements, are found in all 4 Gospels, and if you believe in the cube doctrine, or the cube concept, it's also found in Q. So the Son of Man is found in all 5 Gospels. It's strong, ladies and gentlemen. Even if you don't believe the Gospels are perfectly preserved, historians find this kind of information so strong that they begin to drool over it. Now, what we have then is not just 5 different sources that have the Son of Man, but also the Son of Man, the apocalyptic Son of Man, is found in didactic statements. He's also found in parables, and he's found in statements about the end of times. So the Son of Man is found in 5 sources within the Gospels, and he's also found in 3 different ways. Ladies and gentlemen, it doesn't get much stronger than that. But then I'm talking about the I am statements. It's found in the Synoptic Gospels. It's found in Matthew. It's found in Mark the earliest Gospel. It's also found in John. And it's an exact parallel, don't forget, of something from the Old Testament. And then, sitting at the right hand of the power, is the most quoted image of Jesus in the entire New Testament. That is from the Old Testament. That's a reference to Psalm 110, verse 1, sitting at the right hand of the power. It says, the Lord said to my Lord, sit at my right hand, and I will make the enemies a footstool for your feet. Jesus quotes Psalm 110 through this verse. And in doing so, he is establishing a verse which then became the most quoted image for Jesus in the New Testament. Wow. These evidences are so strong they cannot be denied historically, and nor can they be denied scripturally. But then Jesus said other things. He said he was Lord of the Sabbath. Being Lord of the Sabbath. The Sabbath is one of the 10 Commandments. Yet Jesus claims to be Lord over one of the 10 Commandments. Do you understand how holy the 10 Commandments was to the Jews? Even to the Christians, and even to now, we have the 10 Commandments as a very sacred thing to us. And Jesus says he was Lord over one of the 10 Commandments. Not just that he understood it, but that he was Lord over it. He also says, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father but through me. No prophet from Old Testament times, even in the Quran, in Islamic theology, no man at all can say something like this. I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one can say that. They will say, I have the way to the truth and the life. They will say that the whole Gospel of John focuses on Jesus' identity. That's why Gospel historians and scholars will say that John 20:28, when doubting Thomas reveals who Jesus is the climax. Because the whole Gospel was about Jesus' identity. Why? Why? Because Jesus' identity is what will get you to the way, the truth, and the life. Not his knowledge of God, but his knowledge of him specifically. Other things Jesus said. He says he gives life, he answers prayers, and he will judge mankind for his own glory. Wow, what man can say that? What man can say these things? Don't let any conjecture turn you around. This is what Jesus claims. According to the book of John, and we've also seen how he claims according to the Synoptics. But let's look at what Jesus did too. He forgave sins. As Sammy said, Jesus forgives sins, and he uses, and Sammy uses this statement from Mark 2 to say that Jesus did not claim to be divine. He was just saying he had authority on earth to forgive sins. However, we can discuss that in one rebuttal. I want to get to my positive case before we go on. The Jews of that time said in Matthew 9, this man blasphemes for forgiving sins. And they'd be right. Jesus would be blaspheming for forgiving sins if he were not God, because only God can forgive sins. But Jesus says he has that prerogative. He has that option. Jesus also does miracles in his own name. For the sake of time, we're going to have to go beyond this. We can come back to it later. Let's see what others did about Jesus. So now we've seen that through Jesus' own words, he claimed to be divine. And through the words of others, and through his deeds, he claimed to be divine. But now the deeds of others show that Jesus claimed to be divine. Why? But we cannot forget that Jesus was worshipped. We can't forget this at all. Jesus receives worship in John 9, in Matthew 14, and in Matthew 28. Jesus is worshipped. The word used is proskuneo. Yet Jesus says in Matthew 4, verse 10, you will worship the Lord your God and serve him only. Are you following this? Jesus says you will worship God only. Proskuneo. You will proskuneo to God only. Yet then he accepted proskuneo 3 times. And he never rebuked anyone. And let's look at the other word here, serve. Worship the Lord your God and serve him only. That serve, ladies and gentlemen, that's latruo. That's the pelach in Daniel 7:13. So Jesus here says, latruo, pelach, service, can only be given to God. He says it very explicitly. But yet he claims it by referring to Daniel 7, verse 13. So here, Jesus says you can only latruo God, and you can only proskuneo God. Yet then, 3 times he accepts proskuneo. And he also says he will receive latruo. It doesn't get any clearer than this. But what happens when other people are proskuneoed in the New Testament? Because some people say proskuneo just means to bow down before. Well, yes, it can mean that. But what happens when other people are proskuneoed, even if to bow down before? In Acts 10, Peter is bowed down to. Yet Peter says, stop. Peter bows down to an angel. And the angel says, stop. Don't bow down to me. I'm just a servant. And what do we have in Acts 14? Paul and Barnabas are bowed down by the Lycaonians. And they rip their clothes. They say, no, I'm not God. I'm just a man. And same with the angel in Revelation 19. An angel is bowed down too. And he says, no, I'm a servant just like you. So anytime anyone in the New Testament is bowed down to, they say, no, you can't do that to me. I'm not God. Jesus, however, after having explicitly said you can only bow down to God, accepts people's bowing down. There's no question that Jesus claims to be divine. And what about the enemies of Jesus? So the deeds of those who followed Jesus showed that he claimed to be divine. What about the deeds of those who were against Jesus? Well, they sentenced him to trial. How much time do I have left? They sentenced him to trial. That shows that they believed he was claiming to be God. So the Jews at that time, and he says, who cares what they think? They're Jews. But I think what he meant was, who cares what those specific Jews thought, because Jesus said they were hypocrites. However, we can see from their reaction that they thought Jesus claimed to be God. We can see from the reaction of the disciples, they thought he was God. And then we can also see from Jesus' own statements that he thinks he's God. The Jews also accused Jesus of blasphemy. We can cover this later. And the reaction of Thomas, my Lord and my God. I do not want to let Sammy confuse this issue, because Sammy, I love you, brother, and I hope you're going to end up in heaven, and I'm going to end up in heaven. We can worship with God together, so I need to explain this to you. When Thomas says to Jesus, my Lord and my God, he's not just exclaiming, my God, as an exclamation. No Jew would ever say my God. In fact, the word Yahweh was not even uttered by Jews, because they didn't consider themselves worthy of saying the word Yahweh. That's why they came up with the word Jehovah. You can look that up historically. So they never said, my God, out of an exclamation. And even Jews today, I have a friend who won't even write the word God. In English, she'll write G-D to avoid writing the word God. Yet Sammy thinks that he may have exclaimed the word, my God. No such thing happened. Another possible, I couldn't quite, he might have changed his position. This time it sounded like he said something a bit different. He might be exclaiming out of praise, my God. But there's no indication in the Greek that this is 2 different recipients. The word my Lord and my God is given to the same person. And there's no indication otherwise. I would challenge Sammy, since he enjoys issuing challenges, I will issue one to him, to show me any indication that this can be given to 2 different people, my Lord and my God. In fact, in Psalm 35, verse 23, what do we have? We have the exact same words. Kuriasmu et theasmu. My Lord and my God. It's actually reversed, my God and my Lord. But it's still given to God. One person. And here, Thomas gives those exact same words to Jesus. And what does Jesus do? Does he say, no, Ben Thomas, I'm not God? No. Quite the opposite. He says, now you have understood. About time, Thomas. We cannot leave this. We cannot leave this out. And of course, John's prologue, where Jesus is called, it says, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was God, and all things came into being through him. If you continue on into John 1, you see that Jesus, the Word, I have it right here, and the Word became flesh and dwelt among us. So this Word that was in the beginning with God and was God created everything and came into the world as flesh. What does this sound like to you? Does it not sound like the Christian theology? Does it not sound like God became man and dwelt with us? It is so clear, yet Sammy tries to change it around by saying it was a God. I would love to discuss that, but that will be in the follow-up. So let's assess the evidence. We have multiple early sources that show that Jesus claimed to be God. And aside from just his own words, his own claim, we can see that his enemies and his disciples and everything they did show that he claimed to be God. It's very strong. There's also an early high Christology, and I can only say this briefly, but the earliest stratum, actually I should mention this. He says the things that made God God in the Old Testament were not given to Jesus. The Lord of Lords, King of Kings, all that stuff was given to other people too in the Old Testament. Well, Richard Bauckham says in his newest book that there were two things that are given to Yahweh that suggest that he alone is divine. That first one is creatorship. In the Old Testament, if anyone called anybody the creator, they were referring to Yahweh. And then similarly, sovereignty. The sovereignty of Yahweh made Yahweh God and everyone else not. But we can see in these verses that Jesus is given the same titles, sovereign and creator. So the earliest stratum of Christianity also believes that Jesus was divine. My time is up, and we will continue in the rebuttal to discuss these facts. Thank you very much.
All right, are we going to be taking our break for the cameras now? I believe so. So we're going to take about a 5-minute break for the cameras, and then we will continue with the 10-minute rebuttal. Thank you.
सबलाई सपोर्ट गर्नुपर्ने छ कति आफै स्ट्रङ छ भने त्यति छोड्न नसक्ने कि तिनीहरू जम्मैलाई चाहिँ स्टप गर्नुपर्ने कि
तर उताको त याद छैन खासै
उतालाई
त्यति खास जान्दैन
उनीहरू कन्फिडेन्ट छ लगभग कन्फिडेन्ट छ अहिले अघि नै त गा जस्तो लागेको थियो यिनीहरू अहिले चाहिँ यो दुईटा
प्रोफेसरहरूको गाना पनि आउँछ
यिनीहरूले यो गर यसरी आन्सर गर भने सिकाएको छ Diana.